Well, welcome once again to the finger there in the way. Never a good idea on the phone. Welcome once again to the Pucky SWL channel. What we're having a look at today is this home station of mine of some description that I've spent some time setting up today. I thought, well, maybe you'd like to be sort of run through that. So the rig or the radio is a Kenwood TS120 Sugar S. 1970s or thereabouts vintage. Kenwood made a couple of variants of that radio. There's a 120V, which is a 10 watt only, and sort of QRP, I suppose, or probably more realistically a low powered set for Japanese amateurs. And then there's the 120S, which is the full noise 100 watt version. So this is what that is. It's a 100 watt SSB CW transceiver, fairly basic really and truthfully, and quite bulky by comparison to modern radios, but quite nice. It's one of my favourite bits of radio equipment I have, and I quite like it, and it certainly gives me a lot of fun running it. And I've taken it all sorts of places. It's been portable. We've run kite antennas on it and all sorts of things, and it just sucks it all up and keeps on delivering the goods. So you can't complain there. The second fine piece of equipment, which is this fine thing here, which is my Mtron antenna tuner. Now I have two Mtron tuners. One's a much more basic model, and this one here is, I think, their fully featured version. Mtron, I believe, were an Australian company. I'm not even sure they're in business anymore as Mtron. I think it might be TET Mtron. It's sort of amalgamated or bought out or whatever. Anyway, at some point in the past, they made that fine tuner there, which is quite a useful bit of kit, really. Obviously, it's got the ability to be, move that wire out of the way there, up to 200 watts PEP input, or you've got a nice low range you can measure 20, so useful for QRP tuning. Two inputs, an inbuilt dummy load, so that's super useful. It's obviously designed around that sort of whole era of things like the 830, Kenwood 830, and those hybrid rigs where you would need to tune into a dummy load when you were tuning up. So it's got an inbuilt 50 ohm dummy load, which is really useful. The ability to have a bypass, so you can go straight through, or you can have coax A and coax B. There's two inputs in the back. And then there's a long wire and balanced line inputs as well. So, a really useful bit of tuning equipment if you're into tuners. And obviously you've got a selectable inductor here, and then, two tunable capacitors there. So quite a good bit of kit. And then reflected an SWR meter built in, so you can see how much you're putting out and how much SWR is going on. So I absolutely would not be without that piece of equipment. It's absolutely fantastic. Kenwood SP120, which is the speaker module for the whole 120. There's a whole bunch of 120 accessories. There's a separate VFO, there's a tuner and a whole raft of things, and a power supply, I think, from memory. I don't have any of those, but I do have the speaker, and the speaker's okay. It just adds a bit of sort of ambience to things, and it's quite nice to listen to. A pair of headphones there. They're Sony, again vintage, probably 70s. And with a 1/4-inch input plug on, the WTA amp key, which of course you've seen in an earlier video, and then the power supply for the whole thing is from this 30 amp PowerTech linear supply there, which is I've had for a long time and works really well. And this green thing here, if you're wondering what that might be, is a Proxen coping saw of some description, so useful for making jigsaws and chopping things up if you're making antennas. So yeah, all in all, pretty good. The microphone is the standard handy mic there. You got a noise cancelling function on it. I've got absolutely no idea what that does, and I've never used it. And I do have the desk mic, which is the MC50, I think, for this rig, but I need to dig it out of a box. So we just set it up today, and this whole radio is plugged into an 80-meter only antenna, which is out in the garden. And we've been having a bit of a listen around on the bands. Now, one thing about this thing is it does tend to drift a wee bit, and we'll try and get it on frequency there, and then see if there's anyone around.
after doing what it's meant to do, not in the artwork that it shows up on the project or on the screen when it sends it to the laser engraver. It's got an open.
So there you go. So it's listening to, we're in New Zealand, and it's listening to the Homebrew net, which is a daily net on 80 meters on this frequency. Now, this previous rig's been obviously owned by a South African amateur, so there's a call sign there. So you can, it's certainly been around. We're in New Zealand. It's been to South Africa and started its life in Japan. So definitely got a few air miles on it, that's for sure. I really enjoy it. It's not absolutely not the latest and greatest IC 7300 or anything like that, but it's very, very enjoyable nonetheless. This bit of equipment here is absolutely wonderful in every way, and is awesome for if you're running a couple of 100 watts, or probably more realistically 100 watts, which most of us do. Let's face it, unless you're you know, you've got an amplifier of some description, and then the rest of it's just makes it all look nice. And yeah, nice to have a home station set up again. We'll go from there. So all good stuff. Thank you for watching and tuning in, and we may see you again. And this whole finger thing going on here on the camera is not the best. That's what happens when you you film on mobiles. All good. Thanks for watching. Much appreciated. Catch you later on.